So let's be honest, some jobs in the garden are more fun than others. And if you're anything like me, sometimes you put off those not so fun garden jobs for as long as possible. And in the case of what is lurking behind me, I think we've reached the point where as long as possible has long since passed. Hey everyone, I'm Erin, the Impatient Gardener, and I garden and live here in southeastern Wisconsin, zone 5B6A, and today I am going to dig out some lily of the valley. Now, there are places in this world, I am certain, where lily of the valley is a well-behaved, beautiful ground cover perennial. I'm not gonna lie, it is beautiful, the flowers are beautiful, the scent is beautiful, and for the, what is it, week and a half to 2 weeks that those flowers are blooming, I will admit, very pretty. However, this is one of those ground covers that, at least in my area and many other areas, is an absolute thug. And it is not fun to remove. In fact, the only other time I've actually made a true attempt at digging out lily of the valley, intent on it, was when I redid the circle garden. I think that was 2017 maybe. And that had started to get a little bit overrun with lily of the valley. And so I went through and I sifted through all the soil in that garden to pull out every little lily of the valley pip that was lurking there. And that was not fun, which is probably why I've put off doing what I'm about to do today for as long as I have. As you might expect, because we're talking about lily of the valley, this is happening in the shade garden. And although I have pockets of lily of the valley around, this chunk right here is by far the worst. And I am not going to get rid of all of it today, but there is an area I want to focus on. And that is this area where much of it is actually seems to be sort of coming to the end of its life cycle here for this year. But you can see all of this is lily of the valley here. Now, when I created the garden over here in 2020, I chose not to deal with this situation here in the garden that was already here. This is kind of the dividing line of where that new garden started. So what I did, and this has been pretty effective. That was 4 years ago now, 5 seasons ago. What I actually did was I made a large mulch berm right along here. And that has been fairly effective at keeping the lily of the valley out. Now, it's starting to creep in certain places, which is not unexpected, but you can definitely see the line where, the Hackalacloa and the Carex Flocka Blue Zinger and the Actea or Simicifuga was planted, which is behind the lily of the valley here. In addition to this being completely unsightly, it's also not conducive to really growing plants in. For instance, here's a hosta over here that just gets smaller and smaller and smaller every year, in addition to the fact that it's planted at the base of a maple, which is, not the best place to have a hosta, obviously, because of the water needs. There are other plants that were in here that, there is no ground for them to be in because lily of the valley creates like a really matted root structure. Now, I do have Canadian ginger in here, which is one of my favorite ground covers. It's a wonderful native ground cover. Interestingly, I'm assuming rabbits have been eating some of the leaves off it, which is a new one on me. I've not seen that before, but this will bounce back, no problem. So this year, not so great, but this will bounce back. But, I just keep looking at this area thinking, this is prime real estate right here. This could be really beautiful. I can extend the nice plantings that I have here over into this area, and it's really a shame that this looks like this. So I think you can see that this area extends over here as well. It didn't originally. It's doing its spreading thing, which is what lily of the valley likes to do. But that is not my goal for today. I'm just going to try to work in this area. I have some annual begonias that I picked up on sale that I thought I would just stick in this area for this year. I actually thought that'd be very pretty. And I don't know what will happen in future years, but I thought for now, maybe I could actually make this part of the garden look a little nicer. And more than that, feel good about finally tackling a project that I haven't done in a long time. Now, I don't know exactly what tools are going to be best for this. So I'm going to start with the garden fork that I have. This is the short version of the garden fork from Sneeboer. And we're going to see what I can pull up there. And if you haven't had the distinct pleasure of trying to dig out lily of the valley before, you will, I will show you what we're dealing with here. This is just the first thing I was able to dig up. So first of all, this is the mat of roots that's there. You can see why things wouldn't grow in there. This is all these roots. Each one of those is a plant. And in this tiny little chunk that I just pulled up, you know, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, I'm counting over 20 plants here. And you can see that as the roots spread, as you guys know, I mean, here's 3 on this one right here. So, and you know how this goes with these plants that spread by these rhizomes, you know that they root all along their roots. But this is why that hosta and anything else is not growing here, because that is a giant mat of roots that was way harder to pull out than I thought it was. This might be something I need to take in chunks. Well, I think it's safe to say that this is maybe one of the worst jobs I've ever done in the garden. It was much worse than I thought it was going to be. And actually, I use past tense, and it's past tense only in that I am calling this good for now. I have tackled maybe less than half of this area over here over the course of, well, you know, it's been 2 days since you last saw me here in this video. That's not to say I worked on it for that whole time. It's just that it was so much work, and it's been quite hot here, that this is one of those things I sort of cracked off an hour at a time. And I mean, I knew that this was not a one and done type of job. I know that this area will continue to have lily of the valley here that I will have to deal with in the future. But I just didn't expect the inability to just get through the mat of stuff that was here. I'm just kind of raking up these last vestiges of bits of root, all waiting to become plants. And I will show you how much I pulled out of here in a second. I would say almost anytime you're getting rid of a, do a really good job the first time, and then plan on coming back. And for the next, you know, probably year or 2 or more, maybe forever. Isn't that uplifting? You will have regrowth. But the thing is that once you get the main colony out of there, it's not that big of a deal to weed out individual plants here and there. So I quickly abandoned that border fork because I couldn't even get it through things. So I started using this little hand rake and putting it in there and like pulling straight up. This was super, super helpful. This tool, which is, this one's new to me, very strong, worked really well for that. This is the area I got cleared. I don't know what this is here. That's probably 10 or 12 feet wide by 8 feet deep. I mean, that's it. As you can see, there's still some lily of the valley like left on the periphery here. And I will go through here and I'll pull out this sweet woodruff at the same time, which if I ever want to reintroduce sweet woodruff to another area, I can just grab it from somewhere else in the garden. So I'm never worried about doing a full cleanup. And then you'll see I didn't tackle this direction at all. What was a little bit alarming was that the entire roots of this tree, I think you can actually maybe even see, that lily of the valley was growing up to about here. And this whole thing, you can see that there's still some roots stuck in there. It was just roots matted up against it. Now this is an ancient maple. I highly doubt that that is bothering this tree, but it's shocking to me how much that built up in this area. And you can see like here, you know, like here's more that I just got partially out. There's a jumping worm right there. Something just fell on my head. Please let it be water. This is just what I had the capacity to do right now. So let me show you how much we took out of here. So just to give you an idea of what got all pulled out of there. This is one of those like big contractor size garbage bags. And this thing, don't spill out, is full, obviously, to the top with lily of the valley roots. Just from that tiny area there. By the way, just a note, when you're dealing with something that's aggressive or invasive, don't throw it in a compost pile or a refuse pile. Like we have a proper compost, and then we have a pile in the corner of the property where I'll put weeds and stuff like that. But when you've got something that's super aggressive, like if lily of the valley is in your area or whatever it is that you're dealing with, don't put that stuff there unless you, sometimes you can lay that stuff out and kind of solarize it and let it cook on the driveway or something and then put it in there. Every like municipal garbage service that I'm aware of will take, actually I think most of them are required to take invasive weeds in garbage bags. So this will go to the dump because I don't want this anywhere else on the property. Before I move on, because the next step I'm going to do here is I'm going to put some organic mechanics planting compost on there because I think every time I work up an area, it just makes sense to, if I have some, to get some work some compost in there and some Biochar Blend in there, which I have been using extensively, in part because I think it helps a ton. It adds, it helps with moisture retention. It helps with all sorts of macronutrients, things like that in the soil. But also there's a little bit of suggestion that it might help with jumping worms, which clearly I have everywhere now. So I've been adding in Biochar Blend everywhere I can when I have an option to do that. So I want to put those in that area. Before we get there though, I just want to talk about other methods I could have used to get rid of this. Probably would have made a lot more sense. First of all, I'm just going to say that, in my experience, herbicides do not work well on these kinds of plants with these super, super, super extensive root systems. I remember, like, you have to kill those roots. And there isn't actually that much foliage to actually put herbicide on to actually get to all those roots. So I think that herbicide is not a really effective way to deal with this. In addition to there being other issues, like I'm really not inclined to put a lot of herbicide underneath an important tree in my yard. Other options that will work for something like this are solarizing black plastic over an area for 4 months. Doesn't really work when you're talking about shade, so probably isn't that effective for a lot of lily of the valley colonies since it tends to grow more in shade. Smothering probably would be a good idea. I don't think smothering would take care of this. However, and when I say smothering, I'm talking about a very thick layer of wood chips, like 6 inches, left there for a year, which has actually been proven to be, proven. Let's say I have read some articles that are based in more than just anecdotal evidence that suggests that like a very thick layer of arborist wood chips, like 6 to 8 inches, just that on top of soil is a better option than putting a barrier in between there, something like cardboard or newspaper. But you have to wait like several years for all of that to break down. And as you might know, I'm not really interested in waiting to do stuff in my garden. Like when I get, so I do think a combination of smothering and pulling perhaps smothering for 6 months or 8 months and then coming back in and doing some pulling might work. There are options here, and I suspect that with really aggressive plants like this, probably there isn't one perfect one, and probably a combination of strategies is probably the best idea. You know, I'm just realizing this now. Those roots were so thick that the soil level here is actually lower. And it's not that I pulled out a lot of soil, it's that those roots were taking up that much area. Okay, so I have some begonias here. Annual begonias, got them on sale at the nursery, that I'm going to put in here for now. So we've got something pretty to look at there. But I wanted to talk to you about planting tools. So you guys see me using this guy a lot. And I have to say, this tool is probably the tool that I use the most. Part of the reason for that is because I take this with me every time I go out in the garden, whether I think I'm going to need it or not, because it's so convenient. And that's what I love about these hand tools that actually have enough handle on them, and I love this T handle on them. Now, these are all from Sneeboer. This is the Great Dixter planting spade. I've told you about this one before. I love this tool. I mean, you guys know that I love this tool. I rave about it all the time, and I think you see me use it all the time. I've had it for, whatever, a long time. So if you can see on this one, do you see how it has this sort of pointed kind of shovel area on it? And this is very similar, this tool right here, except this is called the Perennial spade, and this is flat. So, you know, there's really no digging with this one. There's no getting soil in there, I believe. So this was designed, I believe, either Fergus Garrett or, I think it was probably Fergus, or Christopher Lloyd, actually basically designed this tool in conjunction with Sneeboer. And the Great Dixter Charitable Foundation does get a part of the proceeds from this every time you buy one of these. So my preference between these two is this one, because it has more area to actually shovel with, but it does have this nice pointed edge. And the way I often use this for planting, and you'll see it here, is I often, you know, hold it backwards, stick it in, pull towards me, and creates a hole, and then I put a plant in there. But I also use this for digging out weeds. I weed with that a lot because it has that pointed edge. Now this is the newest tool from Sneeboer, and actually I think this got a second place for sustainable product at the Chelsea Garden Show, runner up for the sustainable garden product, because this is made, Sneeboer does a lot of sustainable manufacturing in terms of how they power their factories. There's a whole thing. But anyway, this is their newest tool. This is called the hand spade. And this actually came at the request of their customers who wanted more of a spade to actually dig holes with and move soil with. Because you can tell, you can obviously move a lot more soil with this one than you can with this one. But they wanted something that was easy to carry around. So I think, and this is the thing with these hand tools, is that I'm way more likely to carry this around than I am to carry around my regular spade. So this is the thing with these hand tools. If I'm going out in the garden to do all kinds of jobs, not specifically to go dig a hole to plant something, in which case I would use my full-size spade, if I don't really know exactly what I'm going to be doing, or I just have one little thing to do, I'm going to take this one every day of the week. So I'm going to use both of these as I'm planting these, so you can kind of see how they work. Now I just got this one. Sneeboer sent me this one, oh, I don't know, a few weeks ago. So I've just been kind of using it, you can tell, in the garden to try it out. But I want to show you the difference between those two. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, I think you saw how these two tools function differently. I would say if you have a tool that you like to plant small plants quickly with, a trowel or something like that, then I would say if you were choosing between these two, you might want something that you can dig better with. If you don't have sort of a hand tool that you really love popping things in the ground with, and you need that, then maybe this is the one. You can kind of see how these two are different. I will carry both of these around with me. You probably also noticed that in almost every hole I dug, there was at least one lily of the valley root in there. So it's clear we did not get them all. And like I said, wasn't expecting to, didn't have any plans of that happening. So we know this will be an ongoing process. Mulching will be an absolute necessity in here, both to keep other weeds from growing in here, to keep these plants moist, but also to try to hold that lily of the valley at bay a little bit. Most gardeners probably have some sort of ground cover type plant that they are avoiding dealing with. And for me, that was this one. Now, remember, what is a wonderful, well-behaved plant in some areas can be an absolute nightmare in another. So you might live in a place where lily of the valley is very well-behaved and is beautiful, and you shouldn't be scared off from planting it because of what you've seen here. However, in many areas, it does what I showed you here. And I think you can see why I would happily give up those beautiful bouquets of those lovely little flowers, even though they might be one of the most charming flowers on the planet, to not have to deal with this again. As always, if you found this video helpful or amusing or enjoyable in any way, it would mean a lot to me if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. That helps other people find the channel, and it helps me feel good. So thank you. May you not have to pull out some nasty ground cover in your garden today, but if you do, I hope this helped you a little bit. Have a great day in your garden, no matter what you're doing. We will see you soon. And by the way, don't worry, we will be coming back here to see how much of this lily of the valley regrows, but you got to subscribe to see that happen, because next spring will be the telling tale, right? All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.